The reason we did that is just because we couldn't specify who got shipped out.
So I got a meeting at 10 that I have to go.
Yeah, that's why we're going to try and go.
You're actually an MSC.
Okay, so the first one going is we're going to have the cyber assessment, cyber hygiene data sharing authorization with assist with protection from Bannock County's network and malicious hacking attempts. Is that you or Adam?
So this, do you want to talk about it, Adam?
Sure,
So-
absolutely. Adam McKinney, CTO. This data sharing analysis stuff goes along with the, we're already members of the ESISAC and the MSISAC. We got into that program last summer. This is an extension to that. It gives us the ability to share data back to those guys in a more logical and easy fashion. It really just gives us authorization to share metrics from our county network back to the ISAC, Elections Infrastructure ISAC. So
Cool.
it goes along with the stuff that's been going on, and we just want to be more protected. So.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Adam and I talked about it yesterday, and I'm more than comfortable with sharing
Yeah.
that data. I
Okay.
feel like
It
makes
just
sense.
kind of builds up the walls.
Absolutely. Another layer to the onion.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the authorization for the, is it ISAC agreement?
Yes, ESISAC, or EIISAC, Elections Infrastructure ISAC.
That one.
That one.
Yeah.
There is a motion on the floor. Is there further discussion or any other motions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Adam, before I'm going to just keep you up here then. Do you have everybody else for everything else that you need to talk about?
I actually I didn't invite these guys. They're just here, but they go along with our 911.
Okay, there we go.
So it's great to have their support.
If you want to go ahead and
I know they've got a spot on the agenda as well. So.
if you want to go ahead and fire up while you're there, and then we'll get you done and go right to Ryan and move on.
Excellent. So I brought two things for you guys this morning. Number one is a 911 committee update. We were asked some questions by the commission, and we've discussed them in our 911 committee. And the primary question was related to our unified dispatch center. If there was a desire for consolidating the 3 dispatch centers that we currently have into a single location. In discussing this with the 911 committee, the chiefs and the sheriff, the answer from our committee is that we're already a unified dispatch center in 3 geodiverse locations. The upgrades that we have just kicked off, we had a meeting on the 25th of last month with Pocatello Police Department and Day Wireless on the console project that was approved last year to bring the console in Pocatello up to the same level as Bannock County and Chubbuck. Enhances that and brings that further. Once that's done, these 3 centers will operate as a single center. They really already do, with the exception there's some manual things that have to happen for switchover because the console in Pocatello that hasn't been replaced yet. Once this console is in place, and that target is about 6 to 8 months from now, we've actually budgeted a year, but Dave feels they'll be done in about 6 to 8 months. Those 3 sites will operate completely connected, so much that if Chubbuck were to experience a power outage or a disaster, the dispatchers could pick up, walk over to the Pocatello Police Department, sit down, log into the consoles using the same credentials that they use in Chubbuck, and they'll have all of their calls routed, all their radio consoles routed, all their CAD routed. We currently experience this already with the Sheriff's Department. So the answer really is that we are a unified dispatch center already. It's just in 3 separate locations. And it's unique in this county because a lot of places do not share that. So the idea of building another center or moving it all into one simply runs into some headaches there.
So we've technically moved it into one. It's just
Right.
located in fiscal locations, because before they
That's
were not
right.
capable of doing this.
That's correct.
And that was part of the discussion, is whether it was a virtual consolidation or a fiscal consolidation.
Yes.
Or both.
Yes, and so that's exactly right. It's 3 geodiverse locations, but it is one unified dispatch center, and more so even after this console upgrade is completed. So.
Okay.
The next thing is I wanted to update you guys on the IPSCC grant project. As you guys know, the resolution was signed on the 23rd of November last year. We started to notify carriers on the 8th of December. We notified 78 providers. It's approximately 65,000. I think I had mentioned 55,000 during it, but we went back and looked. It's about 65,000 total subscribers that we're collecting fees from. The total revenue for those phone fees in 2021 was about $790,000. The additional 2 cents per line is going to give us approximately $16,000 additional for this year and going forward. So we're going to raise that revenue in the 911 block to about $806,000. And those notifications have gone out. We've already started collecting that money, and we are changing the way we remit the money to the state. It's just a higher percentage that they're collecting from us. In addition, we have already started a project to get some gear into that grant project. As I mentioned earlier this week, the IPSCC grant project does not cover radio infrastructure, and it does not cover computer-aided dispatch, which is Spillman. Those are the two things that 911 are not covered by this. However, almost everything else is. Interconnectivity fees, fiber that runs these dispatch centers, video, data recording and logging, that stuff is all covered. And what we're looking at now is our Equiture system is the deep state evidence retrieval and management system. It records all 911 calls, it records body cam video, it records the screens from the Vesta consoles and dispatch, it records the radio traffic, it records the responses from the dispatchers. That system was up for replacement, and we got some quotes to do it. Spoke with the IPSCC about getting that into the grant project. We had originally thought we were going to be able to get some FEMA money through Wes and the EOC. It doesn't sound like that was included in his stuff. So now we've started conversations with IPSCC. They feel this is absolutely a perfect project to get our start into this grant project. The grant cycle opens up in March, so we will take those quotes. I actually was able to get the quotes, compare them to quotes that were provided to the IPSCC by other counties, and realize some cost savings in there, because the quotes that we were originally provided were kind of cut and paste. They were kind of a budgetary estimate. So we were able to get those reworked. They've come in at a lower rate, and we're going to submit that for grant, and I fully expect that we're going to receive that.
What do you anticipate that amount to be?
The original quotes were $60,000 per site. But the reworked quotes, being about 180 total, the reworked quotes, by getting the ones we were able to compare them to a Custer County and Elmore County quote, they come in around 120,000. So we're actually able to realize nearly $60,000 in cost savings on that.
So you'll apply for 120,000-ish grant?
Yeah, and I don't have final quotes, because I have, in realizing that the current commission is very interested in seeing numbers rather than seeing, hey, this is what we've got. And that's how I like to make my decisions too. I need to see solid numbers. I've asked for even more detailed quotes. So they're currently, Motorola is working these quotes up so that I can show full breakouts of this is exactly what we're getting. We're going to plug and play. You're going to go from 16 channels to 16 channels, not 16 to 24 just because you felt like throwing in a 24. I want one-for-one replacements so that we can justify those costs.
So overall, this system allows us more capacity to record, or better recording?
Newer, it's not really more capacity per se, it's just an upgrade to the existing system. The existing system was put in 2014. It's still fully functional and works. The issue is that the hardware is getting long in the tooth, and the software that it runs on is out of spec. It still runs on older operating systems that the IT departments for the county and us and Chubbuck have requested. We'd like to bring these up to current level revision. So it really just brings us up to the current level of stuff.
Okay,
let's see, what else did I have on here? The next thing is, we'll talk a little bit more about this Ppd Console Kickoff. One of the things that has to happen with this console kickoff is that we are going to be installing a redundant fiber link to the state core that will run out of PPD. Currently, the microwave system that we run is our backbone. All runs back to the sheriff's office through Chinese Peak. Chinese Peak, just for some technical interestedness, is that that was site number 1 on the statewide network system. So that site really is a hub site already for a lot of state communications. We support over 1,300 radios in Bannock County. That includes all of the agencies, including the fire departments, the police departments, the fire districts, the ambulance districts, some of the utilities, Idaho State University, the outside fire districts, the inside. We support a lot. We are the second highest user of radios in the state on the state remittance, and we're going to start a process to make sure that all of those 1,300 radios are still in use and not being paid for mistakenly. But in any case, we're one of the largest users. We're a linchpin in this statewide system. So right now, our Syringa network that connects us back to that statewide core that allows the first responders in the field to speak over their radio networks to any other departments in the state hinges on our Chinese Peak State link that goes to the Sheriff's Department. It rides off of a fiber line from the Sheriff's Department. We're going to be putting in a second fiber line into the Ppd Console to give us redundancy. Because these sites are all linked with microwave, we'll have a direct connection from the Pocatello office to the state core, and we'll have that redundant link at the Sheriff's office, all backed up by our microwave system. Last thing, and it actually really transitions well into the next thing I want to talk about, but before I do, I had one more note on here from our 911 committee. In talking about some of the ARPA funds and availability and opportunities, one of the things that was presented by Chief Shy was the opportunity to have an in-building training operations type center. He was very interested in, would it be possible for the county to assist in building some type of training facility that we can do. And after talking with Wes Jones, it sounds like the regional EOC and disaster recovery complex really fits that bill perfectly. So I just wanted to mention that because they really like that idea. Oh, one other thing. We also have updated the emergency services zone map. That's something that hadn't been updated in nearly 20 years. GIS worked on that. They've reallocated some of the boundaries. We presented that to the 911 group. I'll know their feedback on that later this afternoon, but so far everything I've heard has been very positive. Much like we're realigning some of the legislative districts, it's the same kind of thing. It realigns who's going to respond to you when you call 911 in those spots. So, all right, there's my 911 upgrade. Or 911 committee update. The next update.
Adam, before we get past that, I want to commend you and the committee for your hard work on that. It's nice to see everybody coming together and working together. Sheriff?
So on that training facility that Chief Shy mentioned, he had mentioned it to me, but he didn't realize the DRC was in place. So sometime, probably next week, him and I are going to go down there so he can see.
Have you been in the facility yet? It's pretty.
So I told him.
It's quite impressive.
That building could probably suffice with the function that he's thinking of.
Yes.
Should be able to.
Yeah, and Wes and I have been working with ISU on getting our network into that building to support the EOC operations. ISU is open. We've started some discussions. They're open to letting us use their network, but I would prefer that if we're going to have a long-term county asset, that we look at bringing in our own fiber.
In the discussion I had with them 2 weeks ago, that was a big
Yeah,
point. And we wanted to bring in our own.
Yeah,
So we didn't have
I
to
think we
rely.
should. It allows our phones to continue working there and everything, so. Okay, so the next thing I've got, and I've given you guys this in the packet, this is a budgetary estimate, and I'm not trying to necessarily this is a beginning of a discussion here. This outlays where we're at and what we need. Number one, our current microwave system that supports all of the county radio infrastructure here and many of these auxiliary functions is aging. It was put in 17 years ago. It's designed for a 10-year end of life, and we're 7 years over that. It's a large chunk of money, but I heard this morning that the commission's looking to do generational projects, and this is one of these projects that absolutely fits that bill. This is one of those things that we need to upgrade in order to maintain our connection to that statewide core. They're planning to move the statewide core from Meridian. It's currently hosted at ISP. They're going to move it to a center in their Ada County Sheriff's Office at the Park Center. It's going to move in second quarter of 2023. When that center moves, we need to be able to provide IP connectivity from our microwave sites to that core in order to maintain the state connectivity. Currently, our microwave sites are fed with T1 lines. They don't have the adequate bandwidth enough to be able to maintain that new connection. So part of this project brings that connectivity up to that level. We're not going to necessarily, it's not going to stop working if they move, but we'll become an island a bit unto ourselves where our network won't connect and interact with that. And we want to maintain that operability in the statewide system in Bannock County, because again, we were the leaders in this in the beginning. The previous director had the opportunity to put this stuff in place, and it really has served us well. It's just at the point now where we're ready to start making some replacements of this stuff. So this packet of information outlays basically our 6 sites. We've got 6 towers. We also have microwave connections at the Chubbuck Police Department and the Pocatello Police Department. After the Pocatello Police Department upgrades, they're already on our fiber connection, but they will have a much more redundant connection to this statewide system once these upgrades
So this
are done.
bill so the grand total of $979,440, that's to replace all the microwave towers?
Yes, that $979 is every tower, every upgrade. We would be required to pay for the bandwidth to those towers, which the IPSCC can be funded. It can be funded with that. So the fiber connections to those towers, it's in this customer responsibilities in the front. We can do that with the IPSCC funds.
So what I would say is, probably my recommendation is, let's go ahead and start looking at funding opportunities, what that would look like, if they're buying, selling, leasing. I mean, how does that look? Do we do that all in one chunk? Does it make sense to pay a little down front? Leverage some ARPA funds to do some stuff, or, because that is, and this will have another 10-year life cycle, or
At
longer?
least.
At least 10?
Yes, this is designed for 10 years of use, and I said the original one was as
Double
well.
that.
And we've gotten 17. So if we say we expect 10 years and we continue to reduce costs and use the grant funds to fund some of this other stuff, and bring in these other counties who would like to connect to us and cost share some of this stuff, we can bank for 10 years out to do this again.
So that's why I say is, let's start looking at maybe some funding models and get it to where when we go into budgetary cycle, that we can start having a discussion, whether it's going in this next year's cycle but we start getting the plan in place
Okay.
to how we're going to execute that.
Note on there's tax.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take that 55 grand off.
And also, this one,
924.
Only $924.
Yeah.
We just say $55,000.
yeah, the tax, and well, in addition, they also had added in a 5-year maintenance agreement, which I would prefer was an annualized cost, so that we can budget for it.
Okay.
So rather than having 87.5 up front, we would bake that 17.5 into a year-over-year, which we can fund with some of this other stuff.
So like I said, let's go back and let's look at what is available in the 911 funds. Let's look at that, and let's start getting some proposals maybe done at budgetary cycle for that capital investment.
Okay, perfect.
You go to that?
Yeah,
Yeah, and that's basically my update, unless you guys have any questions for me.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
that is awesome. Thank you.
Yes. and
Thank you.
Hey, all of the chiefs, everybody I've talked to have given you major kudos.
Well, I appreciate that.
They are fairly impressed with your abilities, so thank you to you and your staff for what you guys do.
I greatly appreciate that. This, I like numbers and I like logics, and that's the way I want to approach this stuff, so,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ryan Belknap.
All right, thank you. So I've got a couple things on the agenda. One of them, I believe the first one was about the employee evaluation guidelines and forms. So when I started working here, I learned that the county at one point was doing evaluations, and because maybe the process wasn't clean or consistent, there was some guidance to stop doing so. And when I clarified with ICRIMP on the reasons why, it was more, not because they don't want us to do evaluations, it's more because they want us to do it right.
Yes.
Right? And so I started building these instructions and this evaluation template for that purpose. And I had actually started this quite a while ago, and just recently, well, several department heads have kind of asked for advice and clarification on what to do in this regard. Most recently, it was Diane Kano approached and asked for a template, and so it kind of prompted me to finish this project. And so she could have an evaluation in their department that the department could use. So basically, I have seen lots of different versions and methods for employee evaluations, right? And a very common one that you're going to see is highly tied to technologies, where you fill in the bubbles, some kind of you know, on a 1 through 5, you know, how you doing, or performs, you know, unsatisfactory, satisfactory, excellent, something like that. And my experience with those has been, it's really easy to get lazy with that. And it falls into those problems that iCrimp was kind of telling us, you know, industry known problems with that method. And I worked with a man who was a master at developing employees, and he used a method similar to this, where it's more of a formative and approach, where you first review the position description, make sure that that's up to date and accurate with what you're doing. Okay, and so that's section 1 of this process. Section 2 is some professional attributes, you know, and communications competencies, you know, and you go through those, and then finally you're making goals to make sure that, you know, the employee is aware of what your department goals are and what goals you might have for them. And the purpose behind this is kind of explained in the instructions. It's not for a discipline or to catch someone by surprise and say, hey, you've been doing this wrong.
Developmental opportunity.
That's right. Yeah, it's formative, and it's a way to communicate. And this process, there's a back and forth where, you know, the employee has an opportunity to provide feedback first, and then you listen to them and then provide your decisions and guidance. And so anyway, I'm giving you a chance to review this. That's the basics of it. Do you have any questions or?
Couple, how many departments are doing these, or at least doing employee evaluations?
I have no idea. There's not a
Standard.
or anything.
I just wondered if you'd heard.
I believe maybe the sheriff's office.
I know
and
IT
some of
does.
the detention might, because of standards they have. Other than that, I'm not aware of.
Those that are using them, why are they using them? What's the purpose of them doing their evaluations? I mean, are they trying to tie it to potential raises, or is it just, hey, you're doing great, we need you to do better, or maybe we're trying to prep you for a promotion down the road?
I can't speak to why people are doing it now, but the guidance that this provides and the direction I'm saying, it's not tied to pay.
Okay.
It is more tied to better, stronger communications about expectations and performance and conduct, and to motivate. It's supposed to be a motivational thing too. Okay, let's reach for something better.
It's a development tool. It's to help people understand where they need to be in their jobs.
Yep, and it's not tied to pay.
Okay, great. That was my concern, is that they were maybe inadvertently tying that to that.
Yeah, and that's good. You know, we should make sure that and I would like to start doing some trainings on this and let them know that don't make promises.
With this draft that you have any of the other elected officials had a chance to comment?
They have not.
Okay, so what I would like to do then is I would like to, if you would please, with consent of the board, send it out to all the elected officials and give them a week or two. Let's give 2 weeks, and let's have comment period. So all the elected officials, so the sheriff, everybody can get in and give comment on it. Say, hey, is there something here or what we need to do? Clerk, everybody go through it. Make sure, as I looked through it, I didn't have a problem with it. I thought it looks great.
I loved it.
But if there's things in there that we need to address for certain departments inside the offices, we can do that, or offices in general that need to be have those things. And then as soon as we get those comments back, I'd like to have a final, and then we can have that discussion. And when we do that, let's invite all the elected officials in for that commissioners meeting and go from there then. Because I think that's something
I love
we
it.
need to do.
I've
So
been
do I.
after it for a couple of years.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
I think that's great.
But that gives those elected officials that fall into there to make sure that if there are concerns are addressed, or if they need things, or if they would like maybe to bolster something or do something like that.
I think that's a great recommendation or advice, and we'll follow that for sure. So thank you.
Your FMLA?
Yep. So this is actually the fourth procedure that my office has kind of rolled out recently, and I got to give a lot of kudos to Josh, who's sitting next to me. I really tasked him with putting our practice into words, and in this format, and he's done an excellent job of doing so and getting feedback. But I do want to mention, so the Family Medical Leave Act is, you're probably all aware of it, I'm sure you are. It's been around for almost 30 years now, 93. And there's been some minor changes over the decades, but overall, some of the basics have been intact for almost 3 decades. And basically, if you've been an employee for over a year, and you have either an illness or injury, a major illness or injury for yourself, or there's like a birth or an adoption, you can be eligible for this this leave that this law provides. And in this 12 meet, and what it is it's leave, but it's really job protection, right? 12 weeks of job protection. And in my past experience as an HR professional, this has been administered a certain way. And when I got here at the county, I was surprised to see that it was done differently here. And the main difference, and it's easier to explain in an example, is let's say I've been here for a year and my wife has a baby. So I'm eligible, right? What's been done in the past is if I had any accrued leave, let's say like 30 hours of sick leave, 20 hours of vacation leave, many departments would let their employees use up their sick leave first, use up their vacation leave second, and then start family medical leave. Okay, and that was the practice here. What I've always seen, what you've always seen, is family medical leave benefit should initiate at the time of the birth, at the time of the accident or illness. And part of the reason for that practice is there are reporting requirements that once the employer knows about it, we have 5 days to give notice to the employee per law of their eligibility and their rights. And so waiting for all the leave to run out first, we violate the law every time when we do that. And so,
and if I may,
Yeah.
like if things go south with the employee that you're on, what they can do is come back and they can charge us for FMLA interference, which that's not a good one. So,
hefty fines.
Well, go ahead.
No,
I was just going to say, again, I'm okay with this. I would ask for unanimous consent to move this to Tuesday, that we can go ahead that way. But I would also ask you, though, to go ahead and put another email together with this, send it out to the elected officials, and ask for comment, and let them know they have until Tuesday. And then we can take with having Commissioner Moser back, and we can then take action at that time.
Sounds
yeah,
good.
no, I love the work on it, thank you. So,
I did have a couple revisions that I shared with these guys.
Okay.
Yes, there are some minor events.
Just simple little things of, instead of it saying the elected official and their deputy, I recommended that they put chief deputy.
Yes.
Because of,
There's a lot of deputies.
yeah. And then also some notifications to
Could
payroll.
you guys get together? And
He's
then,
already got it.
We already
Okay.
They've already
All
got
right.
it. I just wanted you to
The
know on
changes
this
are great.
draft, those are some minor tweaks.
Great.
Payroll tries to assist with making sure timesheets are accurate. So we like to be notified when someone's going to go on leave and then when they're expected to come back, just so we can make sure
Right.
that it's filled out right.
No, that's good. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
If you'll just, yeah.
I agree.
There is one other thing I do want to bring up as a change of practice.
Okay.
And that is, we have been inconsistent with requirements for some kind of fitness for duty documentation before someone returns. And we've been discussing it and really believe that if someone goes out on family medical leave for injury or illness, they should have a fitness for duty before coming.
Do we have a health occupation organization that we can contact? Typically, a lot of people use Portneuf Medical's Health Occupation Center. You work with them, you have their job description. So for example, if a sheriff's deputy got hurt on duty before he could clear, he would have to go to a health occupation. Instead of just a doctor's note, it's a health occupation that independently does it, and they just say, yep, they're good or they're not. That's it.
well, so the idea is we would provide them with a job description. They give it to their doctor. We provide them
Well,
with a fit for
so
duty.
this is why I don't want doctors, is because what doctor is reviewing that? If it's a doctor that's a I'm going to a podiatrist because I have a back issue and they're clearing me. That's one of the things that we've ran into. I know I can see the former chief of staff down there shaking his head like crazy because he knows from past experience of in his warden days. That's why I say the health occupational specialist, that is it's an independent group. It's somebody that gives us a clear assessment. It's not, and I would feel much better having it done that way.
I was gonna say, on those guys, is there a cost for that? I'm
There usually
assuming?
is a cost, and
That
that's
would be
something
the county
that
would.
we would have to pay for, but that's something that we want to make sure, because that is somebody that, and the lawyers would probably attest, going into a court of law, that's somebody that they are the subject matter experts at doing this. We give them their job description, they look at it, and they say yes or no. And then it's not, we don't like their doctor, or their doctor's their buddy. It's just, hey, these are the people that do that, and, I mean, they do it for the railroad, they do it for all these Simplot, they do it for the Army as well. So that's why I say is that would be my feeling. So,
Well, and some thoughts on that is sometimes it's our employee using the leave for themselves, and sometimes it's a family member, right? And so, well, I guess that one doesn't apply. But the other thing is, sometimes, I guess I just don't want to make it overly burdensome or complicated, where sometimes it's something very simple.
yeah.
And then sometimes it's more complicated where we want to do that. And maybe we can put our heads together and think about, when it's appropriate where we have to go
Yes.
there, and when there's maybe it's okay for an exception because it's such a simple situation, right?
Yeah. So, no, I'm good with that. That's,
Okay.
but yeah, let's start talking. But if we're gonna require any notes from medical professionals, I don't want it to be from just a doctor. I want it to be from a health doc, because they have their own medical doctors that will be involved with that. And that's an independent source that we don't have to worry about,
Okay.
They're fine. No, really, they're not. So,
Okay, so we'll make some modifications around that.
Yeah.
So thank you.
okay.
Anything else on that procedure that you'd have questions about? or
No,
know about?
no.
I like it.
That's it. With that, we're gonna skip around then. Tony, we're gonna skip to you next, just because
Okay.
you're sitting here and I know that you probably gotta go.
I'm good, whatever.
Yeah, let's roll you then.
Thanks for squeezing me in here. Bannock County Sheriff Tony Manu. So,
I think so, yeah.
the reason for me being here today is we've come into a situation in our jail medical where we've run out of test kits, COVID test kits. So the practice had been we were testing new incoming inmates and then house them if they were negative. When we did run out initially, I reached out to other counties. We were able to get some, roughly about 100 from other counties, other sheriffs that were able to supply us some to sustain us, just to kind of mitigate the costs when they were giving out free tests. Now they aren't, the tests are gone, no more free tests, unless you, I guess, each individual fills out a form and sends it into the federal government. They send you 2 tests, I guess. So I thought about having all our deputies do that and bring in their tests so we can use them. But anyways, long story short, in line item, and I know Christie has this, in line item for medical, jail medical, 638, the total contract of $1,065,000. Broken out, 21,000 of that goes towards prescription, 18 towards the medical supplies, 18,000. Currently, now I've got the actual real numbers, but I know in your numbers you show in prescriptions we spent roughly 8,000, in supplies of that 18,000, 8,700. So right now, with 0 tests, what we've been doing lately for the last several weeks is doing the 5-day quarantine when new people come in. But we've since, for the last couple of weeks, run out of room. We just
Yeah.
we can't do that because we get full, On your chart, it shows kind of our daily average of new people coming in, the monthly roughly breakdown. So the ask is to get at least two months worth of COVID tests. And we understand the trend is going down nationally. I've reached out to public health, asked for tests. They don't have any. Reached out to the state, don't have any. So
I'm good with it. If you have a line item to pay for it.
I struggle with it. What are you doing with them? I mean, why are we testing?
why are we testing?
Yeah, why?
Just because it's a congregate area, and if we get one, we've had an outbreak. It was up to 30-something. We're now currently at
So
zero.
if they pop hot, you're isolating.
We isolate them. So if they happen to come in, pop hot, so we're just not throwing people back there and infect the whole pod. It's a matter of, that's why we were doing the 5-day when we ran out. We'd keep them in booking for 5 days to see if they were symptomatic.
I still hate doing it because I think we're on the tail end of it, but
I get it.
And that's why
Yeah.
the ask is 2 months, and it's gonna be regular. I think we'll get through it with that, and then, but all it takes is a couple to go in there that we don't know, and all of a sudden we're hot, a whole pod.
what happens when you get hot, the whole pod? You just have everybody isolated for
Pretty
5
much.
days, or?
Pretty much, well, we'll move them to like a smaller pod and start moving people around, shifting like an E large can hold 20. So we'll start pushing them in there and rotate people out.
But if you have a bunch of sick people, some of them might only show bare symptoms, or
Right.
others might be because of other health issues. They might be, which then we really have to pay.
Are you saying
Right.
you have the staff to cover if your staff gets sick?
That's, we
Probably
deal with it.
not.
Then other people start, like, patrolmen will start going in there and cover. And we've had that. I mean, we've had,
So this
Kinda
is
little-
this is my whole thing. If you're testing to quarantine to make sure that you don't introduce a contagion into
correct.
the population, I'm okay with that. I am not. I'm with Jeff. I hate this. Just we're testing to test. I don't agree with that. But if you're doing it because, yes, if we have somebody who comes in sick, we're going to isolate them so we don't have the other population.
Correct.
Because then we're not pressing the rest of the medical staff. And the other thing that makes me nervous is if we do get somebody sick and they do end up in the ICU, we pay those bills directly then.
Right.
There's no Medicaid reimbursement. There's no indigent services. There's no anything like that. And so that's why.
Well, I'm okay.
And I'm
with-
weighing this too, and I'm, you know, and I'm going, well, why can't we just take their temperature or
Yeah.
mitigate it that way? And the staff seems, well, at least 2 months. They'll get us through these last 2 months, and that's their ask.
And you're only gonna test the incoming?
Incoming,
Okay.
that's it.
All right, I agree with Terrell on that, so.
Yeah, I'm worried about the staff health.
Yep, go ahead and get us what we need. Or if you can
So-
just go ahead and purchase then. You want to, actually, I would ask for a motion.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we authorize the purchase of 2 months' worth of tests for the jail as specified, or as requested.
There is a motion on the floor. Is there further discussion or any other motion?
Do we have some discussion?
Go ahead. No.
Tony, all right with that?
Well, now it's a matter of where
So-
we fund this source.
Do you want to finish your motion, or do you want to do your vote, and then I'll, or do you want to?
Well.
Because
do we-
technically it would come out of the medical.
Yeah, that's,
So,
And the concern for me is where we are as far as medical supplies.
so what I would say is let's go ahead and pay it out of medical, continue to monitor your
Okay.
budget, and then we'll just watch bottom line
Okay.
and hope that
yeah.
other medical costs
Don't-
don't
Should I
cause a
amend it, or are we
situation.
okay with
I think it's implied that it's out of the medical.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
And then
What's that?
if
12 line.
money becomes an issue, we'll monitor it, and then we might have to dip into contingency
12
if,
Okay.
if things get crazy, but otherwise,
We're getting
they'll
there.
All right,
probably
we'll
be able
hold,
to absorb.
we'll hold right there for a second.
And we're still 8. I mean,
Yeah.
we're down to 8. We've got 2 we just interviewed 2 yesterday, which are moving on. So we're getting there.
Okay.
And that's the other part of this is if, like you said, if someone gets infected, a deputy, then that, it really stresses where we are employee-wise.
Right.
So that's the other reason why trying to mitigate this at the front end.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there any other discussion? Any other motions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Cool, thank you, Sheriff.
We'll just watch the budget.
Okay.
All right,
Thank you,
with,
Sheriff.
with that, Melissa?
coming today to talk to you guys about maybe doing the same thing that we do for the Department of Veterans Affairs with the Social Security Administration. Not a whole lot of difference. So it would require a little bit of making sure we were secure enough to talk to the Social Security Administration by email.
Okay.
With some certificates, so that would be a barrier. As far as my work, it will require a little bit of training on my part because I'm used to working with the 38 CFR through the Department of Veterans Affairs, and I'll have to learn the 20 CFR, which the premise of the laws are the same, so I don't anticipate a whole lot of challenge with that. I have tried to do a training with them once before when Social Security was sending out a program called SOAR for homeless people to apply, and they couldn't really pick up their training process very well. So this one here is a little less entailed for my processing end, as much as it is me just having the communications with one specific person in a local office to help advocate and help the veteran process and gather their records, much like I do with the state right now.
So I have some mixed feelings on this, mainly because we have your office that is already pressed to the limit a lot of times, and if we're taking on additional resource issues, have you had any conversations with the local director, Social Security Administration?
So this is how this came about. I have been talking to the Social Security Administration about a veteran who needed help, and through our conversation, he presented this idea of people with barriers that the social. Let me make sure I tell you exactly what it was called, so I don't mess it up. But Social Security wants help with. They are seeking help from people who are in my kind of a role. It is called. People with barriers. There you go. And basically what they're doing is they're reaching out to entities that do this type of work. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to get them to help them boots on the ground because the Social Security Administration doesn't have.
Yes.
They don't. Yeah. They're never going to have. And to get into the Social Security office right now is even worse than it was before, with probably no sight of it ever returning even to the meager means we had before COVID. Okay. So this is what the process is, and their thought is that people who are already meeting with these claimants would just be able to process the same information over. And it does make sense because it is the same information.
Yeah.
But you're right. It will add an additional level of work in my office.
So, and this is the other thing too, is if we're doing the job of the Social Security Administration, they're paid to do that. Are they going to then, if we're participating in a program, are they going to help fund us to do that?
Not any more than the Department of Veterans Affairs does now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's essentially the same kind of partnership as the Department of Veterans Affairs has, but the difference is that we have an interim level. So we have the state of Idaho that works directly with the Department of Veterans Affairs, and they are the actual accredited representatives. Then us as the counties opt in to work underneath the state's accreditations, and that's how we work. So what, with the Social Security office, what would happen is you'd still have Social Security, just like the same Department of Veterans Affairs, but instead of there being an underlying process for training and stuff like that, that piece is gone, and it's us directly with Social Security.
So do we receive funding for being?
Nope.
No, there will be no funding. The only thing that,
and again, the problem I run into is so Social Security is operated in a federal level, and so I do not like us venturing into areas that we are not constitutionally delegated.
Sure.
Or powers and authorities are delegated under state law.
So this would probably only come under the Soldiers and Sailors Relief Act, as to where the county opts to serve veterans in their area based off of that act. And that's the part that funds my position, or the piece of that's where I come from, right? So it's kind of the right thing to do, Does it add money to our
Well-
need? Yeah, it does. It does.
The problem is again, I have one Melissa, and if we're doubling the workload, and I get it, we've
It probably wouldn't be
advocated,
doubling, but
but
it would
it's
add.
gonna be, because once the word gets out that Melissa can help you with your social security stuff, instead of going,
Call volume goes away.
you're gonna have everybody and their dog calling your office. And so this is a problem that I'm a little, again, we have a veteran service office because that's why we feel it's important, and I understand that, and it's part of something inside the state purview that we've been given or have the opportunity to participate in that way. And so I have it, it's just, I'm nervous that if we, the last thing I want to do is burn out your office. That's the thing that I get scared about, is that,
Because we already know you don't like to say no.
we know we don't like to say no, and if we have to, and so for me personally, but I don't mind it, looking into this a little bit more, but I'm really not very, what I would probably like to have is see if you could get a discussion with the local administrator. I don't know if she's still here, if they've changed out.
the person I have been working with is Kirk Larson. He is the outreach person for the Social Security office to garner people to do this.
Well, and again, I think there would need to be some, as I look through this, just not their forms, but I think there we would have to have legal look at it, and we would probably have to have some MOUs on our side relieving us of any liability or issues or problems. I think there's a little bit more to this than just,
Starting to dive right in.
yeah. So I would say, again, let's get back to just not that outreach person. Let's talk to local Social Security office here. I know a couple of those guys that have been hired down there. I used to work there, by the way. There were several military people that actually work in that office.
There are, and I think that's why they know me.
But that's what I'm saying, though, is so I'm wondering,
That's why I got the call.
well, and I get that, but at the same time, though, I'm getting a little, again,
It's too much.
and I don't want to burn you guys out. And it's not that I don't see that there's a huge need for this, but I don't know how we can. We're barely struggling and giving you guys the staff you need to do what you're doing. And I'm afraid that if we add one more layer of complexity onto your job, that.
Well, I agree with you that once the word gets out that you do
Oh, it's gonna go
Social Security
nuts.
stuff, then call volume goes away.
Look at the veterans that may or may not be in Bannock County that will find their way to Bannock County to have Melissa help them. Because they know that you will get the job done,
You're
and
not
that's,
going to confirm nor deny that.
so, and that's what I'm saying, though, is that's what I'm afraid of, is that this turns to people find out that you can help them, and it's gonna spread like wildfire.
So let me just throw this out there. I don't want to take up a whole lot of time, but I just want to throw this out there one more time. It's just kind of some food for thought. If we were to combine veteran services in a district, similar to what District 6 Court is, and partner with the other counties, and actually create a Southeastern Idaho Veterans Advocacy District, and then get the other smaller counties that don't have a full-time me, get them convinced that there needs to be this partnership and pull in this extra piece to it. Could it be something that would be useful to Southeastern Idaho and it would be a win-win for all of us? And here's why. They would get some services in those smaller communities. Our office would be able to have another person that I could train, because here's what's going to happen. You're not going to get me out of college. There's no school that's going to teach them what 22 years has taught me. But if we could pull somebody in and I could start teaching them, and it would be regional wide, now we're building something that could be perpetual.
I think that's part of the discussion with the counties then.
Yeah, I'm all for trying to help the veterans, so I love the idea of you being able to
Yeah.
expand your services, but with the limited resource, so I would say, like Terrell, go ahead and talk to the local people. We can reach out to the counties to see if they would be interested.
We have our meetings with actually the chairman of the regional
Yeah.
counties is sitting next to me, so
Christie, can you put that on the agenda for next? Okay, thank you.
And that's something that there's been that discussion. There's been some talk of that, and that it would be a participation. to help put that together. And I think a lot of people, but it would take us putting it all together.
Right, I'm not smart enough to know how it would work. All I'm seeing
I'm
is
sure we
that
can figure it out.
it would bring in those littler counties, like, so Oneida, the ones I'm thinking specifically need a lot of help. Oneida, Soda, Franklin, Power,
All the counties in our area.
Bear Lake.
It's our,
That's
Yeah,
our county.
it's the district.
Right.
It's weird because Bingham County Bingham County really needs help. The ladies who run Bingham County are super sweet, don't get me wrong, they're really nice, and they're knowledgeable. I don't like how Bingham County's run, and that's probably my own ego that doesn't like how Bingham County is run, so I'll just let that go, because it's not worth me saying out loud.
All right.
okay.
No, if you'd get us some stuff though, because like I said, I'm
Okay,
just
so what kind
really.
of questions do you want me to ask them? You want me to get with a contact person?
Well, what are we talking about? Caseload volume, how many people, what are we looking at? Are they very specific criteria for them to come talk to you? Or once is anybody who's ever had anything to do with a veteran that wants a social security issue fixed?
Right.
I mean, is it specific, what program are they filing for in social security?
All of them.
Permanent disability or part-time disability? There are certain things that those people in the training of which one is the specific subject matter expert, it's a lot of work to understand those two programs and what's in there.
Yeah, it definitely is. When I tried it with the SOAR and they sent it, they said it was a 40-hour training.
No, this
you'd
is
be
not,
fine.
this is not.
I was like, sure. I looked at it and I went, are you kidding me? This isn't 40 hours.
Well, the other part with that is try to get a better understanding of what the time commitment is after the training. So if I'm a
Right.
veteran and I come to you for help with social, is that a 10-hour commitment, a 20?
Yeah.
What does
My
that
guess
look
is
like?
it's going to be very similar to what it is with the VA, because the claims process is through, so VA compensation, VA pension is very similar to Social Security, Disability, and SSI, right? If you were going to compare them, the two programs are comparable. The laws are slightly different, and the requirements are slightly
Well,
different. So,
and they're hearing examiners, they have judges involved, they have all sorts of
So do
stuff.
we.
But
The
it's
VA
just,
does too.
but it's another departure of what the process is.
I mean,
and that's what I'm saying.
ideally, you get your stuff done well enough that you don't ever get to the judge.
But,
I mean, that's the goal, right?
but yeah, it's
you
one of
can
those things that.
So
Um,
just tell me what you think I
I
should
would
do. Do you want me to?
contact him and find out, okay, if something like this is, well, how many hours are we talking about a week? What's the
Okay.
training protocols? What's the general so what of, what is it going to take for Melissa to get trained and to do all of this? And then what is the average caseload that we're looking at? Because I'm sure they could run a report of veterans that are Social Security eligible in our county, and I can almost guarantee that all of them are going to come to you. And so what's going to happen then is that caseload, if that gets dumped on you, how many caseload workers do they have that are handling just those claims right now?
Right.
And which ones would come to you and why? And that's what we need to, you have to put some sideboards on. Is it just free for all, any veteran that's working on a Social Security issue, or, because that's a Social Security Administration
Right.
thing.
Right.
So that's kind of, we need to flesh that out a little bit better, and we'll talk on the county side for the other counties to see if we can put something together
See
that
if
way.
there'd be some district thing. Okay. And then also, we need to add in there, if we decide to move forward, one of the main things that Social Security was, that they were adamant about, is that there would be a security certificate in
Yeah.
an email process. I don't think we have that.
No, we don't. It'd
Um,
require a CAT card.
Yeah. So, because I know I can't, I send all my stuff cryptic to the
Yeah, you have to
VA.
encrypt it. It's another CAT card.
Yep, okay, all right. Very good.
Cool. Thank
I'll do
you.
that, thank you.
All right, next, Misty Keflamides. Madam Chief Deputy Treasurer.
Hello again.
All right, we've got cancellation of taxes. There's supposed to be some ones brought back to us from,
You want to start with that one?
yeah, let's start with those right quick.
Okay. So I forwarded on to you the deeds and a resolution showing that it has gone from an individual and then going into the tribe.
They are owned by the
So
tribe.
I feel like
Okay.
hopefully that's what you were looking for.
That answers my question. I have
Perfect.
no problem with that. Do you want to make a motion on that one?
Yep, trying to get the resolution number here.
All right.
I'm at the bottom of the page, it takes
Yeah.
forever to find it. Let's do this. Get cheap, see if we can get the top.
Where's that I have the deeds in here, and have the signature side.
Do you have that?
I don't have the
Do
signature
you
sides.
have the resolution in?
I don't have the resolutions.
Look at Tuesday's agenda.
Yeah, let me,
I have a copy right here. if you-
yeah, let's, there we go, that's what we needed. From Tuesday.
Oh, are you talking about Tuesdays?
The two,
Or what I forwarded to
yeah,
you?
we just need the two parcel numbers.
Oh,
Which
right,
ones,
right
they're in
there
there,
front.
you see them?
Or-
Oh, there we go, that's what we needed, right there.
Okay.
That's what we were chasing after.
All right, Mr. Chair, I make a motion that on parcel RPR 380-300-3900 and parcel RPR 401-303-3903, that we approve the cancellation of taxes as presented.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there further discussion or any other motions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Those are taken care of. We can just sign on that. All right, that brings us to our next item of business.
Okay. Should we go with RK Motels? Is that-
Yes, let's
okay,
start with that one.
Since Mr. Suppla's
It's,
here.
it's the one that's on top.
Okay, so I'm not sure if you've had a chance to read through our recommendations, but the treasurer's office is kind of recommending that due to some circumstances that have happened in the past, that we cancel out the first half of the 2020 taxes, interest and late fee. And Mr. Suppla is prepared, he has a check right here to cover the second half if we can also waive the interest and late fee on the 2020s. He's undergone some hardships with, keeping up with the hotel, and then he's been in front of you before. The other issue is the value that was brought on to his taxes back in 2019 and 2020. He tried to come in front of the contact with the assessor's office with the commercial appraiser and was unsuccessful in getting that done. We've had a discussion here before on that. But we feel that had that been granted and then not granted, but the assessment been adjusted back at that time, then the taxes would have been lower. So canceling out the first half of the 2020 taxes pretty much kind of evens out what they have adjusted his value as of now for 2021s.
So they did go back in this year and lowered it back to what it originally was.
Yes.
And they corrected the error, even
The
though.
2021s, and I don't know how that all came about, but it is lower.
They did not, the assessor's office, the contractor did not reach out and did not contact them as directed.
From my understanding, yes,
Okay.
but that is what had happened.
For this cancellation purpose, is this requesting of the applicant, or is this something that the office in review?
I've been talking with Mr. Suppla. He's kind of trying to figure out a way to get caught up with the taxes, and so Jennifer and I have discussed this and thinking, that our office is also requesting this on our behalf because we feel like the assessor's office didn't quite get it done for them back in 2019 and 20, and
Okay.
feel it's kind of a right thing to do.
So this is at the recommendation of the office of the
Yes,
treasurer?
it is.
Okay. Any questions?
No, I would accept that, so.
So before, sir, if you want to come up for just a second, please? And while we're here, before I ask for a motion.
Hello.
Hello, sir. Make sure you say your name for the record.
Back again.
Just state your name for the record.
Oh, my name is Mohan Sepla. I own the RK Motels LLC in Chapel.
So you understand what's being brought. This check that I believe is in the possession of the office of the treasurer will bring everything current then. If we accept the recommendation of the treasurer,
Not current?
or not current
Oh.
to
2020.
2020.
And then he
By June,
By
I will pay it
June.
all that.
will become current.
I had a promise before, so I will take care of that.
Okay. Sir, I'd just like to say is you've been before us several times. We've worked through this, and I've appreciated your open and honest transactions with us and with the Office of the Treasurer. And I know that you and your family have been working some pretty hard hours and getting caught up and busting butt, and it doesn't go unnoticed on our end, and I do appreciate that. So.
And I would concur with Commissioner Tubby. So with that, I'd like to make a motion on parcel RP RCI GP 000201 that we accept the treasurer's recommendation as presented, that we cancel the interest and late fee for the first half of the 2020 taxes, and the interest and late fee be waived for the second half of the 2020 taxes.
That's everything, correct?
Did you state the taxes also for the first half?
And taxes for the first half?
And taxes for the first half, where did I miss that? The first half of 2020?
Yes.
Okay.
2020, correct?
For 2020s,
Okay.
yes.
There you go.
I was also wondering if we could add in the waiving the interest on the 2021 since he has 6 months. Or
Oh,
less than
okay.
6 months now.
Yeah, I will
Okay.
pay that.
The-
So-
for- Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. So let me just start from the beginning, Nancy. We'll get it right. I make a motion that we waive the interest and late fees for the first half of the 2020 taxes. The interest and late fee is waived for the second half of the 2020 taxes, and we waive the interest on the 2021 taxes.
Did you get the cancellation of the taxes?
And the
first half?
cancellation of taxes for the first half of 2020.
Yes.
Working on it. And the cancellation of the taxes for the first half of the 2020.
All right, does that,
That is
we
it.
said everything now.
Okay. All right.
Uh,
That's a tough one.
All right, there is a motion on the floor. Is there further discussion, or are there any other motions on this? Not hearing any, all in favor? Aye. All right, sir, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Continue to work. If you
Thanks,
have
sir.
issues, please be in contact with that office.
Thanks.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Okay, the next issue that you have before us.
This is for parcel RPCPP 0100 for Bertie Howell. Bertie Howell is deceased. We just came about this, and we received a letter from his widower, Betty Howell, who is 96 years old at this point. She has not been on the deed. I have a copy of the will saying that the home is, she's to take the home, stay in the home. The problem is trying to get her a hardship. We can't because she's not on the deed. She's got 4 stepchildren who I've been in contact with one of them, where they've been they've played around with the idea of getting the deed in her name, but it causes so many legal issues with the 4 stepchildren, where they're her stepchildren and not her
Yes.
children. So we are requesting that, so the homeowner's exemption fell off for 2021's taxes, and she's 96, was unaware. She sent a check in for a partial amount and asked that, there's some sort of relief. I sent a copy of that letter in. I'm requesting that we cancel the second half of the 2021 taxes. The first half has been paid. Had the homeowner's exemption still been on there, she'd be current and caught up. She just does not have any more funds. She's living day to day, trying to get by. So, she's 96 years old. So, that's our treasurer's office would like to request that we cancel the second half of the 21 taxes.
Okay, I'm good with that. So I'll make the motion, but I'll have to have you do the parcel number, because I don't have that.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, on parcel number,
RPCPP 060100.
I make a motion that we accept the treasurer's recommendation to cancel the second half of the 2021 taxes in the amount of $1,409.41.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Any other motions? All in favor? Aye. All right, and then would you do me a favor, please, and just keep apprised of that for this next year's tax? I think this might be a situation that we could have for a bit. I don't know how we fix it, because like I said, after you brought this to my attention the other day, I went and I read, and I read, and I read, and I read, and I cannot find any way, especially if you have 4 kids and we all know what families are like to try and deal with. So just keep us apprised of this, and we'll take care of it as it comes forward. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Shanda. It's been And Scott.
Looking trim.
Good morning, Commissioners. Shanda Crystal, Purchasing Economic Analyst. I have 2 items before the board today. The first one that I want to start off with is reviewing the seasonal concessions bid for the Event Center and Wellness Complex. I wanted to point out a couple things before we get going, is that this is a revenue-generating proposal. So as that, we wanted to pattern it very similar to our other proposals that we do, to be consistent and open with our vendors that use us, so they know our process and things like that. But in talking with legal, right, there are very few guidelines as far as things that we have to do, right? We're going to look at best practice for sure. That's also why we want to be open and transparent and consistent with other processes that we have. They just have very little, like we don't have to post in the newspaper, though we do want it out in front of the most people that we can. So we're going to continue to try to reach out to vendors individually that potentially might be interested, as well as post it on our website. But why we pattern it after those, there are very few Idaho codes that are going to actually apply to us. But in doing that, there are a couple changes that we would like to propose and make to the packet that was submitted to the commissioners. The first one I wanted to start off with was just trying to, again, be more consistent with things that we've done in the past. I added an administrative page to just page 1. All that does is summarize the timeline and the contact information. So as people pick it up, right, they get a very brief synopsis of what's going on. We're looking for seasonal concessions at the Event Center and Wellness Complex. Please contact me with any questions, and then the deadlines for proposal and when we anticipate awarding the contract. It's just going to be on page 1. Then, upon Christie's review, she recommended a few changes to the concession specifications under billing. As part of this, we're asking each vendor to propose a profit sharing to us. We haven't limited that, we haven't guided them. We want them, as being the subject matter experts, to tell us what they feel is comparable and reasonable on their end and our end. And in doing so, we wanted to be open and broad enough with the language that we had in billing that's going to fit any of those circumstances. So we did add with appropriate documentation. Right, not quite knowing what that proposal is going to be, we wanted to leave it open, but then ensure that auditing gets what they need based on the contract that is eventually comes about through here. And in adding that in there, we also, Christy wanted to give them a little more leeway. I did have the first on there is when these items were due back to auditing. But right, by somebody closing out on the 31st, can they really comply with having the funds to us on the 1st? So we did change that to the 5th, just to give them a little more time. So those were wonderful changes that we added there. And then, can I turn it over to Scott to just where we want to have these?
Yeah, so in number 3, concessions opportunities. Last year, you recall, was the first year that we sent out the concessions to a bid, and we limited it to one specific concession stand.
Correct.
This year, we're going to open it up to the other concession stands in the facility. Currently, there is another concession stand under the grandstands that would be available, and we're working on trying to outfit something in the indoor arena. We don't necessarily have names for those areas yet. So the way that I think we could word this is just to say excluding the 2 concession stands in the amphitheater, which are currently tied to concert contracts.
So they won't be part of this contract?
No.
Okay.
So those are
That was
currently
my
tied
question.
to other contracts,
Right.
so we leave them out of this contract.
Concessions on the property excluding the concessions inside the amphitheater.
And that would allow us a little more flexibility
Okay.
if we chose to take some different options with like the 4th of July, or try to mark a little bit more. It would give a little more options there.
Makes sense.
And
Good
those
with
would
that?
be defined further in a contract once we move
Yes.
forward to that point. So,
Yes.
the 2. And then in the vendor selection, I wanted to point out just a couple different things. We are going to adjust the language slightly on number 4 to submit a plan for scheduled equipment cleaning and care. We just want to be more specific about what we're looking for there.
What I would also like is on that is how long is this going to go for? Is it seasonal or is it going to go?
So this is a year contract with the opportunity for us to roll it over.
So June 1st through May.
So it'll actually be, we want to award it April 1st, and we want to run it essentially for the calendar year. But it can go
just the
April.
calendar year?
Yeah, it'll go through the calendar year with the opportunity to roll it over. So if it works out, if it's a good partnership with it, and we agree with the terms, we could
So
end up
I didn't see it
extending
in here, but I was grad reading, so I might have missed it. What I would really like is at the end of the calendar year, that there will be inspection and turnover of the facilities before a contract to be granted. So
Sure.
they know you're gonna walk through, or your representative is going to go through and clear them, and it will be cleaned, it will be in the state that is, as it was turned over, but you will have all the cleaning, this is required.
Yeah.
So
we
I would like
actually
some-
would,
Yeah.
we want to do inspections more frequently than that.
Yes, but you know what I mean, though, but at the end, no matter what,
Sure.
when they clear, whether they get the contract or not, before it is a requirement that they will do that, or we will
Okay.
hold back or do something, or there's something involved, there'll be a penalty, because I don't want it to be like when, what's their names left, and it was just an absolute disaster. And I know you guys will be inspecting, but I want them to understand that expectation in the end, that if they want to have that contract for that next year, it better be,
I think we have a better understanding of what we expect
Yes.
from our vendors this year
Yes.
than we did last year, for sure.
On the rollover, are you just looking like a one-year annual rollover, or?
Yes, it'd just be year to year.
Okay.
And then obviously if there's any changes to the contract, it would have to go back out to bid. So if we made any adjustments to profit sharing, it would just have to go back out.
So, I would have that, with that rollover, I'd have a clean, in this specifically, that you will be inspecting, can be spot inspection or monthly or quarterly as determined by you.
And that would just go in the contract that we sign
Yes,
with the
yes, just
vendor.
make sure that that's there, because that's something that I don't really want to have to buy a bunch more of equipment because people didn't take care of it.
Agree.
I like giving them the heads up here, right, that that's going to happen.
Yes,
right?
this is
And then
gonna happen. They better know
specify,
that.
They sign in the contract that they agree to these terms, and that'll be great.
I'm good with it. I'm ready to move it forward. Agree.
Okay,
Tuesday.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion, if we're gonna bring it back on Tuesday, then.
Oh, because there's changes that you guys needed for the final copy for signing of the RFP.
So if you agree to the changes we've discussed today, we can make those and I can post it this afternoon. Because we're not putting it in the
Yeah,
paper, so
there you go.
there's not
Okay,
something.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the RFP for seasonal concessions at the Event Center Wellness Complex as presented with the changes we discussed.
I'll ask for friendly amendment that we will be able to sign that RFP. There should be a signature sheet for us like normal, or are we not doing one?
So not on
Okay,
this.
all right,
So,
that's fine. Nope, you're good.
okay, all right.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there any further discussion or any of the motions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll make those adjustments and get it sent.
Cool, thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Shanda, you have a one last item.
Right, an update, and I'll be brief and quick. So we did add, right, the concessional, or seasonal concessions with the event center. That was just before you for review today. The fuels reduction grant, the contracts were signed with CECOG, so we've reached out to them. They have bidding documents that they have run in the past. They're going to send those over. We're going to dump them into our templates and then have them reviewed through legal and through Wes before presenting them before the board as that project moves forward.
Okay.
On the medical bay, we had a wonderful pre-bid meeting yesterday out at the sheriff's office. We had 8 different contractors show up.
How many?
8.
Good.
So I was pleased with that. We even had one general, which I didn't think we were going to get anybody. So I was pleased that at least one general showed up. And most of all of our other disciplines were there, which were great. Levi ran a great meeting, and we're excited to move forward and see what comes of that. So we're excited with the progress on that project. The architectural on the Historical Museum, we have a project meeting just after this at 11 that I'll get more information as far as the completion date on that, and we'll have an idea when we can issue the addendum out to the, for the roof construction building. On the administrative water line, that has begun ahead of schedule, which is fantastic. It was scheduled to begin next week, but they went ahead on this Monday, and they've already begun that project, so that's great news for us. On the administrative flooring replacement, that project is coming along, but they did have delays in product and some labor stuff, so that is taking just a little longer than they'd hoped. They're hoping to complete that within the next couple weeks. And that is all for me, unless you have any questions.
No, that's good.
Well done.
Valley Office Systems, is that you?
No.
No? Oh, so just us in general? Did you handle who?
Oh, we talked about that on Tuesday, and I think we had to
I
come
think that
back.
was the change to the event center on the.
Okay, so this is all taken care of then?
Yeah, that's, we just specified the event center on the
Do you wanna-
contract. So, Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the Valley Office agreement for the copier as presented.
Does it say event center at the top now? It used to say fairgrounds and that was confusing.
Bannock County.
It just says Bannock County with the fairgrounds.
It doesn't,
It
just
says
says the address.
10588 Fairgrounds, that's it.
Yeah, there's nothing that says event center.
Yeah, it doesn't
on
say.
there.
Event center, but
I'm gonna put it.
then you can get it done. Do you have the tax ID number on there?
Yeah, I believe so. Yep, federal tax ID number here. Yep, it's there.
Copy on here was blank, so. I
Yeah,
just-
it's there. That's
that's why I was
right.
going,
They did it
what?
for public, for, yeah.
Perfect.
Okay.
So with that modification, Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the contract as.
There's motion on the floor, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, we have completed our business as presented, and we will take a recess and reconvene